Hey, what's up? My name is Toby and be welcome to a quick Unity tutorial. So in today's tutorial, I want to show you how you can quickly switch in between different game objects, for example, guns or any kind of particle system, any kind of object that you can imagine by just clicking on one button. And what we're going to do, I'll show you here because I'm working on this mobile game where you are supposed to switch in between the sides of this ship. So shoot on the left side, on the right side, or both sides, or don't shoot at all. And here, as you can see, if you click on the button, then it will switch in between left, right, both sides, or also none. So when I started writing this script, I began with doing some awful switch statements and then had a long script which was really not flexible at all. And then I thought that there might be a better way to do it. So in case you're in a situation like me and you need to switch in between different game objects, or in this case guns, and want to do that in a way that's a bit better than just having endless if else and switch statements, then this is a tutorial that will help you. So this is the little scene that I prepared in order to show how to do it, and we just got here a game object which has basically 4 particle systems attached to it. Looks kind of cool. These are actually paid assets, but for the sake of this tutorial, you can just create a cube and then have, for example, particle systems on the left and right side, or just take what you are currently working on and implement it there. If you're interested in it, there's a link in the description as well. And also the final script is going to be in the description. And now I'm going to show you how to do it. So the first thing we want to do is create a new C# script. So right click, create a new C# script, and we can call it something like gun controller, or if you're switching between anything else, you can call it what's most understandable for you. All right, so the script is open in C#, and we want to begin by creating a new array that will include all the game objects we want to switch in between. So I'm going to be doing particle systems. That's why I'm going to be starting with particle system array, and we just kind of call this, for example, particle systems. Or for that sake, we could call it guns, but we're going to transfer it to a different data structure. That's why it doesn't really matter what we're going to name it. The next important thing is that if we want to switch in between objects, then we need some kind of attributes that determines which side is going to be active. And in my case, or in the case of this tutorial, we're going to have the left and the right side. But we have to combine this side attribute to the particle system or to the game object that actually is going to be then active or passive. So in this case, we want to create a new struct, so public struct. We want to maybe call this gun system in this case. And the struct is basically a very simple class, you could say, which just has mostly attributes to store, and it's going to be used pretty much like you would use an integer or a boolean or a string, but it can be a bit more detailed, have more attributes. And now we want to create a public particle system, and maybe just call it part sys, so it's short, and then also have a public, and we just want to call that side. Side is going to be a enum that we're going to create now as well, because we want to iterate through something that probably starts like from 0 to some extent, and then enum is quite handy. So let's call a public enum sides, or let's maybe call it sides, like that. Because I already did this once, and I call it side. And then we're gonna have first of all no cannon is shooting, and then maybe the left side, the right side, and then both, for example. And this is basically just the sides or the different modes that we're gonna switch in between. And we want to create a new enum that is called like that. So for example, public side sides, and then we obviously need a constructor, and I already created the brackets for that. So we want to have a public gun system, and then we are able to just fill in that variables. So we want to say, okay, we need a we need a particle system. That we want to call part sys underscore part sys, because obviously it's going to come from somewhere outside, but we need to determine where this is going to go, and then we're going to have a sides underscore sides. All right. So then the next thing we need to do is to say that the particle system in the struct is going to be equal to whatever we pass in there. And then also we need to determine the sides, which is going to be whatever is passed into the struct. All right, so it's called gun systems. I don't know if there's an issue here because I already created a struct. Oh yeah, okay. It's because I already created a struct that is called like this in preparation. Okay, so now we got an enum that will let us iterate through the sides of the ship and of the guns in this example, and we also have a struct where we will determine, okay, we got this particle system, and the particle system belongs to left, right, or both. We could potentially create a list of sides. So for example, one particle system could belong to the left side, and it obviously also belongs to both, but we're going to solve it in a different way. But if you have multiple states where multiple sides are active, then I'd recommend to create a list of this enum. All right, so next up we want to begin with creating a list out of the struct, so a list of gun systems. Just call it gun systems, and we're gonna make it a new list and initialize it. Then we need an integer that will determine which side we currently are targeting, and also we want to keep track of the enum length. So how many sides do we have in total? Because after we reached the maximum sides, or like the last side of our enum, we don't want to go further because this is going to get us an out of bounds error. We want to just start from the beginning. So we can use the handy method enum.get names, and then type of and then we're gonna put in whatever our enum is called. So for example, sides, and then dot length. So the reason why this is currently still red is because we need to enter using system up here, like that. All right, so because we didn't import the library yet. In the start method, we're gonna initialize our side as 0, because this is where the enum starts. So 0 is gonna be none, and then 1 is gonna be left, 2 right, and so on. And we could potentially also later on just add more sides to that. All right, so we have the enum length, we have the side, and then we're gonna start initializing it. So next up, we need to find the game objects we're looking for. So I'm looking for particle systems. And if you're looking for something else, then you could just filter for game object of type. In this case, I'm gonna say particle system equals get components and children. So because we're looking for multiples, This script is going to be attached to the parent object uh, of the ship. So it's going to iterate through all the um, children's and then look for particle systems. So particle system, and then we will start our setup gun systems method that we're going to write now. All right, so we can delete the update method and then create a new method, setup gun systems. Or if you're not using it for a gun system, then whatever you want to set up. And we're gonna begin with a for loop. So we're gonna say for int I equals 0. I is smaller than particle system dot length, and then I plus plus. And then we want to create a new enum from sites. Can call it sites just like that. And so if, okay, so one important thing before we continue, you need some kind of attribute that will determine whether a object is going to belong to one group. So what's going to determine that this particle system, let's say, belongs to the left side and this one belongs to the right side. So in this case, I made the choice that on the left side, the particles, I'm going to move them all a bit to the left on the x-axis, and then on the other side, move them a bit to the right, so that if we take a look at the x value of the particles, of the particle systems, so this one is slightly positive on the x, and this one is slightly negative. So we're gonna iterate through the particle systems in our script, and then we're gonna see whether they are more to the left or to the right on the x-axis. And let's say you also wanted to have something on the front or on the back, then you could determine that by the z position, for example, and not by the x position. All right, so we want to say if particle system, and then the one that we're iterating through, dot game object dot transform dot position x. If this is smaller than the transform position of the object we are putting this script on, which is going to be the main ship, then if it's smaller, then it's on the left side. So we want to say side equals side dot left. It's sides. I'm sorry. Sides equals sides dot left. And if this is not the case, so obviously if you have more than two sides or two attributes that you want to order, then you have to do a if else statement. But in this case, I'm just going to do else. Sides is sides dot right. So now we just determined what side is going to be, but we still need to add to the gun. And I got a grammar mistake here, so let's quickly fix that. Okay, so we want to add to the list a new, and then gun systems, yeah. And this is going to be the particle system. So the particle system dot I, and also the sides. Oh, and of course close the bracket. All right, so what we now do is we the first thing we want to do is we're gonna determine all the game objects that match the ones that we want to distribute in the groups and that we want to target with a button. And then the next thing is we're gonna determine whether they are on the left, on the right side, or what kind of attribute ever. And then we're gonna add them to our list that we're actually gonna use. All right, so the next method we're gonna write is the shooting method. So we're gonna do public void because we wanna trigger this through a button, toggle shooting. And so what we want to basically do now in this method is we want to just make sure that we will only toggle the game objects that are in the group that we want. So we want to begin by using the integer that we created, which is called side, and we're going to set it to whatever it is, so side plus 1. And then simply could say maybe like side plus plus, make it a bit shorter. And then we also want to say that we want to take the remainder, so the modulus operation of the length of the enum. So this is responsible for not going beyond the options that we have down here. So the enum length is 4, so if we iterate to 0, 1, 2, 3, it's good. And let's say we would have the side integer at 4, then the remainder of 4 divided modulus 4 would be 0. Alright, so now we're gonna continue with the for each loop. So we're gonna iterate through all the gun systems. We can just call it gun sys in. It's still got a typo. I don't know why that didn't work, but we're gonna just work with that now. So in all our gun systems. So if the and we need to convert it to int first. So if the gun system dot sides, so this would be then 0, 1, 2, 3, and whatever. If that is the same as our current side, which we will toggle through a button, or if it is gonna be if the side is gonna be equal to enum length minus 1, so which is 3. That means if we want to shoot both of the sides, well, then we just want to say the gun system dot particle system dot play. So that means that basically iterate through all the gun systems that we have, and if you find out that the side that we toggled with our button iterating through 0, 1, 2, 3 is the same as the side that, so 0, 1, 2, 3 standing for none, left, right, and both is the side that we determined up here, then play. And if it's not, well, then just stop it. And purchase dot stop. And also, in order to click through it quickly, we need to add the clear method as well. All right, so that's pretty much it. It's quite short, but quite effective, I would say. So let's test it out by dragging the script onto our flying pirate ship over here. So this just was a test that I've been doing. here. Okay, let's drag this grip on here. And now it should automatically iterate through, take all the objects that well, basically satisfy the criteria. So in this case, particle systems. Then it will look whether they are more on the left or more on the right, relative to the ship origin. So the x-axis is it plus or minus, and now we just need to just take a little button. So I've created a little button already on the canvas. It's very easy. If you want to do it as well, then you can just do right click UI and then just a text button, text mesh pro, and then you can just move it around a bit here. And here's the on click method, and we're just gonna drag in our ship and then select the method toggle shooting. All right, so let's switch to the game view, but first of all we need to make sure that play on awake for the particle systems is disabled, because otherwise they're just gonna start playing, which we don't want. Okay, so let's hit play for a second. And now if we hit switch side, we have the left ones, the right ones, both, or none. So one thing that's great about this method is that it's so flexible and that you're basically able to just add new objects, new particles, and they'll be just automatically determined to on what side are they on, and you don't have to manually add them to any kind of list or array. And especially if you have a lot of objects, for example, this can be very useful. In this case, I'm just going to show you if I'm gonna take this particle system here and I'm just gonna duplicate it and maybe move it a bit down here to wherever position, and then hit play. Then without doing anything, basically it will be automatically included on the left side. Alright, so that's it for the tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to write in the comment. I think this method can really be used for many applications, including maybe switching weapons or any kind of switching iteration where you just want to do it with one button, for example. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching, and see you next time.